I want to tell you how this very food that doesn't have aesthetics might look ugly to people. It holds a very valuable lesson that if you apply it in your life as a startup founder, as a business person to extent, you definitely grow. And not that you definitely grow, your business, your team, everything around you, you're going to experience a lot of growth, because the major thing people lack in marketing is not marketing itself, the skill, how to speak, how to, the confidence. It's who you are marketing, who is your audience. And that is how this ugly food comes in. Have you ever bothered to ask yourself why there are so many startups in Nigeria, yet there are so many, in fact, the problems are even way bigger in scale and in numbers more than the startups. The more the startups, the more the problems. So it's signaling that the startups are not really solving debt. That is the reason. And until every startup founder in Nigeria start marketing their product like, you see this Amala for, I will never take them seriously, because that's the only way I get to know the people who are actually solving problems and the people who are actually there for vibes. The Amala is more or less like the anthem, the common thing that ties Yorubas together when it comes to food. The Igbos have too many Igbo food that introduces them as Igbos, but when it comes to Amala, just mention Amala. At the mention of Amala, every knee of the Yorubas shout. So when it comes to the marketing of Amala, there is something that is very unique about it, the patience and the audience clarity. Startup in Nigeria has slowly become a game where everybody's actually rushing for visibility. It's more or less like a race to look big before becoming useful. In fact, the boldness in this has actually gotten worse, that you see a lot of startup founders spending heavily on billboards in harbor areas like, Lekki, VI, boldly advertising problems that that this is not connected to the reality of Nigeria. If you pay attention closely to most of these ideas, you get to realize that most of these ideas are copied, rushed, without context, without patience. And the irony is this: Nigeria does not lack good founders. We have brilliant minds, we have builders, but we lack that very discipline to sit with the problem intently long enough and to market it with intention. And that is where this Amala comes in. Amala doesn't beg anyone to eat it. It doesn't force itself into 5-star spaces. It just knows its way. It knows its people. That's why you see it on billboards. If you come to a place like Lagos State like this, in most high 5-star restaurants, highbrow restaurants, you get to see a special spot dedicated to Amala sold here. It's either it's boldened or it's somehow italic, but somehow the appearance must be different, just to sell the uniqueness to a particular people, not for everybody. They know the people they are calling. And because this confidence is very consistent, it creates curiosity, stirs curiosity. That's how outsiders try it. That's how converts are made. That's how I became a fan of Amala today. I've paid attention to some founders in this Lagos state, brilliant minds, but when you pay attention to them and they tell you that they've been running this thing for the past 2 years, and you pay attention to the very product, you get to realize that they are more particular about raising money. Yes, startup requires money, but it doesn't require as much money as it requires you solving the problem. Because if you're solving the problem, trust me, you're definitely going to be seeing the people who are also intentional about you solving their problem. When we started Kaki.ng in 2025, when we started verifying estates, we started in 2024, but we started verifying estates in 2025. We knew that the major challenge we are going to have in the beginning is meeting developers who are actually concerned about the fraud in the market, who are concerned about the fake, confusing the investors and not bringing much confidence to themselves, who are actually the real ones. We knew that the hardest part wouldn't be building the idea. It will be meeting real developers, not agents, the actual players who care about the long-term health of the real estate industry in Nigeria. And we accepted their challenge in good faith. That process taught me just one single thing, very important thing. If your mind is too focused on raising money, you will abandon the very problem halfway. You will seek pivoting too fast and you will not pay attention to the problems and how you are going to be tackling the problems. That is the reason why if I pay attention to them and they say that their product has lasted for like 2 years, you realize that the product is still static. How can you tell me that you've been running this very thing for the past 2 years and it's only the idea you started with that is still there? Nothing has been, adjusted to the demands or the data you've actually collected in the course of running it for the past 2 years. Something is definitely wrong with either the product or you. And that is why at the end of the day, even in the rise of startups, a lot of problems still finds its way into the market or into the industry. Because those who are actually seeking more of raising funds, more of cashing out, ended up solving nothing deeply. That's why if you pay attention to the fintech industry today, you see so many cracks. Not because one company can solve the problem, but because too many rushed into the market without thinking long term. You should be very intentional about marketing your product to the very people or to the very audience you know that this solves their problem, the way Amala is being marketed without pushing effort. At the end of the day, your products start getting better, you start getting better, your team start getting better, everything start getting better, the growth start becoming organic and visible. You can't fake such alignment. So in the course of meeting developers, one thing actually stood out. It takes one intentional mind to recognize another. I mean, meeting Nigerian developers who are very intentional about the real estate industry is one way that I get to realize that the Nigerian real estate industry is not just full with scam. It's only saturated with minds who don't think long term when it comes to the real estate industry, which is also the problem.